Welcome to Theater Talk. I'm Ann McBride. Co-host Ed Shopes and I are here the first and third Fridays of the month to tell you all about what's happening in the Mid-Willamette Valley theater world. Hi, Ed.
Hi, Ann. Fall is nearly here, and we've got some great new plays to tell you about. Who's on our guest list today, Ann?
Joining us first on this episode of KMUZ Theatre Talk are co-directors Emily Matsuda and Sabrina Rehnke, and young actor Esther Morgan to tell us all about Matilda the Musical, on stage now through October 1st at Gallery Theatre in McMinnville.
And in our second interview segment, we'll talk with director Loriann Schmidt and actors Lance Nuttman, Nathalie Reid-Holbrook, and Kamil from The Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, running September 29th through October 21st at Pentacle Theatre in Salem. But first, let's check our KMUZ Theatre Talk calendar to see what else is on the boards. Ann?
Albany Civic Theater at albanycivic.org. They have the Savannah Sipping Society that runs through September 30th at ACT. Check out our podcast for an interview with director Scott Harvey and cast members from this fun show. And auditions for Peter and the Starcatcher are coming up at ACT September 18th and 19th, with callbacks on September 20th. Go to albanycivic.org for information.
Brush Creek Playhouse at brushcreekplayhouse.com. Their season will close with an original adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And the show is called Ebenezer, A Christmas Carol by Emily and Michael Wood. It's directed by Norman Gouveia. Auditions for this ghost story are September 24th at 1 p.m. and September 25th at 6 p.m., and the show runs December 1st through 17th at Brush Creek Playhouse.
The Elsinore Theater at elsinoretheater.com. For information about local events and touring shows on stage at the Elsinore, go to elsinoretheater.com or visit their Facebook page.
Enlightened Theatrics is at enlightenedtheatrics.org. And coming up December 10th through 17th is James and the Giant Peach, and that'll play at the Grand Theater in downtown Salem. That show is directed by Stephen Munshaw and assisted by vocal director Kent Wilson and choreographer Christopher Dean. Watch Enlightened's Facebook page for more info about the show.
Gallery Theatre at gallerytheater.org. Matilda the Musical is currently on stage at Gallery Theatre through October 1st. Stay tuned for an interview with co-directors Emily Matsuda and Sabrina Rehnke and young actor Esther Morgan for a deep dive into this popular musical.
Kaiser Homegrown Theater is at kaiserhomegrowntheater.org. And this just in, Kaiser Homegrown's production of the Thanksgiving play has unfortunately been postponed due to the illness of its director.
The Majestic Theater at majestic.org and at the Majestic Theater on Facebook. Candor and Ebb's hit musical Cabaret runs November 4th through 19th at the Majestic Theater in downtown Corvallis. Get tickets at majestic.org.
Pentacle Theatre is at pentacletheatre.org. The Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, a dead funny musical comedy by Robert L. Friedman and Stephen Lutvak, runs September 29th through October 21st at Pentacle Theatre. We'll talk with director Loriann Schmidt and actors from the show later in today's program. And Joe Dodge's acting workshop for actors 18 and older is at Pentacle Theatre's rehearsal studio in downtown Salem. To sign up, go to tickets.pentacletheater.org.
The Salem Playhouse at thesalemplayhouse.com also offers acting classes for both kids and adults at the Kaiser Homegrown Theater and adult classes at Chemeketa Community College. To sign up, go to thesalemplayhouse.com and click on the Classes tab.
Spotlight Community Theater has a new website and ticketing page at spotlightcommunitytheater.org. And talk about wild, the first show of Spotlight's 2023-24 season is a steampunk-inspired staging of the Oscar Wilde classic comedy of manners, The Importance of Being Earnest. It opens September 21st and runs through October 1st, and it's directed by Shannon Rampell.
Corbin University at corbin.edu/theater-arts. They are doing the musical You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and that will play in November at Corbin University. Check their Facebook page for an announcement of the run dates.
Western Oregon University is at wou.edu/theater, and Western's upcoming season of shows starts with Much Ado About Nothing, and that runs November 9th through 18th, directed by Jeb Burris, and that's followed by Spring Awakening in February and March, directed by Michael Phillips, and closing out the season will be John Proctor is the Villain in late May and early June, directed by Risa Fleming.
Willamette University at wutheater.com. Willamette's 2023-24 season kicks off October 26th through November 12th with the world premiere of In the Deep, a new musical with book and lyrics by E.M. Lewis and music by Clarence Roscoe McDonald. That wraps up this week's Theater Talk calendar.
Coming up next, we'll learn all about Matilda the Musical, on stage now through October 1st at Gallery Theatre in McMinnville. So stay with us for more Theater Talk.
Welcome to KMUZ Theatre Talk. Emily Matsuda and Sabrina Rehnke, co-directors of Matilda the Musical, currently open at the Gallery Theatre in McMinnville till October 1st. I understand you've brought with you an actor. Would you like to introduce her?
Today we have with us the incomparable Esther Morgan, who's playing Matilda Wormwood.
That's quite a role.
It's a very big role for a 10-year-old.
Esther, tell me about Matilda.
Well, Matilda's a little girl who is not treated well by really anyone. Her parents just don't care about her at all. And Matilda loves reading books, and her parents don't want her to read books at all. And Matilda is not the kind of girl who would just be like, okay, I'll deal with this. She's one who wants to fight back. And her parents send her to school. And the school has a really mean principal, Miss Trenchbull, and she is mean to all the kids and everyone, really. And through the story, the audience probably will find out that Miss Trenchbull is Miss Honey's aunt, and Miss Honey is exactly the opposite of Matilda. Matilda could stand up to Trenchbull easily, probably, and Miss Honey cannot do that. And Miss Honey and Matilda find a really good connection throughout the story.
That's wonderful. And Miss Honey is the teacher, right?
Yes, Miss Honey's the teacher.
How have you enjoyed playing this part?
I've had a lot of fun. It is a lot of work because I have a ton of lines, and but my family is really helpful, and my dad is also in this production. You probably know, but my mom helps me learn my lines, which I really love.
Have you other theatrical experience?
Yes, I have. My first role was Marta in The Sound of Music.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was in Christmas Carol. And then I was in Matilda Jr. And then now I'm in full Matilda. And Christmas Carol and Sound of Music were both at Gallery.
That's a lot of theatrical experience for a 10-year-old. That's great. And did you audition?
Yes, I auditioned.
Wow.
We had close to 100 kids audition.
Wow.
Yeah. Or 100 people. Yeah, we had quite a few kids who came in to read from Matilda, and Esther was just so wonderful.
Emily and Sabrina, you guys are co-directing this show. What attracted you to this piece to begin with? What's driving you to do this show at Gallery?
Matilda was my absolute favorite book as a kiddo. Anything Roald Dahl, really, but Matilda was really special to me. I still have my copy from when I was about Esther's age, and it's missing its front cover, but it's sitting lovingly on my bookshelf. And
Oh,
I loved the story. And I think I resonated with the story because I was also quite the bookworm as a kid and was pretty shy, which people who know me now may not believe that, but I was a pretty shy kid. And I think the story of Matilda just really resonates with young girls, especially. And, even if we don't have a Trunchbull necessarily in our life, there's usually an obstacle or maybe someone who makes us feel small. And it's a great story about standing up for yourself and also finding who you are.
Sabrina, what themes and messages are you hoping the audience sees through this production?
I really think one of the key messages of this is if you believe in something and you stand up for what you believe in, you can make the world better in small ways that build up to larger things. For me, that's what drew me to this story, is that universal connection that we all have with wanting to improve things and how we can do it with small choices that we make.
so do you think audiences will take that away from the production?
I do hope so. That is my intention.
How big is the cast?
There's about 20 main characters, I think, that all are named in the script. And then we have an additional 10 or 15 ensemble members.
Well, you've got to have a lot of kid wranglers in this show, and everybody really has to be on top of their entrances and exits because stage left at gallery, there's not that much room.
That's exactly right. Yes, there is not a lot of room, and we have quite a few big set pieces that we have coming in and off stage left and entrances for a lot of people. So you are very right.
Well, what are the biggest challenges, Sabrina, besides having so many people on stage?
Our set was pretty ambitious. The audience will get to see it right when they come in. We have the curtain open at the beginning of the show, and it's pretty awe-inspiring. We have a new builder that's comes from more of an engineering background, and we asked him to build a set, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's awe-inspiring every time I see it. I think that the set was such a fun but challenging thing to figure out all of the ins and outs of how to make it light enough but still sturdy enough for what we were asking of it.
I have never seen the stage show. I've seen the movie. What are the differences between the book or the movie and the stage show?
Yeah, there's some pretty notable differences. There's some B storylines in the show that aren't part of the book. So, for instance, we have interwoven throughout the entire show are these stories of an acrobat and escapologist that Matilda tells the audience. It's meant to be the story she's creating in her imagination to tell her librarian friend, Mrs. Phelps. And that doesn't appear in the book. As you go throughout the show, you realize that she's crafting the story as we go throughout the show, and she's taking her personal life experiences and creating this story. And then we also have the addition of Rudolfo, who is the dance instructor for Mrs. Wormwood. And he doesn't appear in the original book, but he ends up being quite the fun side character in the show. And he has lots of fun with Mrs. Wormwood. For people who love the book, they'll find new ways to fall in love with the story that they maybe didn't know before.
Do you have a classroom?
Yes, we do. We have 4 different scene changes. We have the Wormwood's house, where Matilda and her parents and her brother Michael live, a library where Mrs. Phelps and Matilda spend their time together. And then we have a classroom scene where Miss Honey addresses the kids. And then we have the exterior of the school where we have quite a few songs. And then we also have 2 carts that come out. One is Miss Honey's house and one is Trunchbull's office.
That's a lot of set.
It's a lot. Yes.
That's a lot of set. I was just wondering how many kids are in the class.
There are 10 younger kids. We call them our nuggets, and then 10 teenagers.
That is such a huge cast and a huge set.
Yes.
How do you divide the job, co-directors?
I think we primarily tried to choose and talk with each other about what we felt were our strong suits and how to lean into that. So I am stronger at doing the tech side of things. So I took charge of making sure the set got built, talking with the lighting folks, those kinds of things. And Emily has a much stronger background in things like marketing. So she leaned into more of those choices. And then when it comes to how the show itself is running, we just communicate with each other really well and try and talk through so that we communicate the same thing to the cast about character choices, about the nightly notes. We combine our notes together so that we have one voice as we talk to the cast.
Do you ever have one director working with something and another director working with something else in the space?
What we do is we come together beforehand and kind of divide up what those would be so that we can split our time and be more efficient. But we're communicating about what those choices are before we make them so that nobody's left in the lurch or not, privy to information that we're giving to cast members.
Is there a choreographer?
Yes. Mary Smalley Acuff. She is a gallery regular and has been part of gallery for almost a decade at this point. She took on the arduous task of taking over the choreography from our original director when she left. And she has just risen to the occasion. She has choreographed some incredible numbers. We've got a song where kids are in PE class and there's trampolines and jump ropes and weightlifting. And she's just done such an incredible job.
Wow, the organization, very impressive.
I don't know how aware you guys were that we had a director originally for the show, but she moved a few weeks into the process because her husband got his dream job in Tennessee.
Oh.
And so that's why we took over as co-directors, because we were both assistant directors beforehand. And so one of the things I just wanted to impart upon our audiences is that, in community theater, sometimes you really have to lean on that community aspect. And everybody has risen to the occasion. Mary wasn't prepared to choreograph an entire huge undertaking of a musical. She was our dance captain and was going to help with choreo, but now she had the task of finishing the choreography. And of course, Sabrina and I weren't prepared to co-direct as well, but we've had to jump in on our feet and do it. And everybody in this cast has just been so willing to step up and be where they need to be and help fill in gaps. And we could not be more grateful or thankful for their time and effort.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Esther, what's your favorite moment or scene in the play, the part that you really enjoy performing every night?
I really enjoy when at the end, or it's near the end, with Miss Honey, she sings My House. That's really where we have our connection. And I really enjoyed performing that every night.
How did you prepare for this role to begin with? I mean, even before auditions, you said you loved the book and it's one of your favorite characters. But what did you do to get ready for auditions? And what were you thinking of when you were auditioning for this show?
To get ready for auditions, I was running the song that I was auditioning with over and over and over. And when I was auditioning, I was feeling like scared and excited and a whole lot of feelings. And I was like, it's either Matilda or probably ensemble or something like that. And when I heard I got the part, I was just like, oh my gosh.
You were surprised, huh?
Yeah.
What are you getting out of the character Matilda? What are the things that you love about playing that role?
I just love that she's a very special person, and she and I have a lot in common, like we both like reading and stuff. But I personally wouldn't stand up to trench bowl, so I just love taking on the challenge and just playing Matilda's personality.
Is there anyone in your life that is a trench bowl that you think about?
No.
One more for you, Esther. What do you hope the audience takes away every night from the experience of watching this play and seeing the character of Matilda overcome such big challenges?
I hope they see that she probably is not like a lot of people. Like other people probably wouldn't stand up to trench either. And I probably just want them to see that I don't know, she's just a very special person.
What I want the audience to really take away is that even in dark things, there's light. You just have to help it grow.
Matilda the Musical runs at Gallery Theatre through October 1st. It's an extraordinary story about an extraordinary little girl, great music, huge cast. Go see this show, folks. You can get your tickets at gallerytheatre.org. And thank you so much for joining us, co-directors Emily Matsuda and Sabrina Rehnke. And a big, big thank you to Esther Morgan, who is playing Matilda. Break a leg for the rest of the run, guys.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. It was great.
Thank you so much.
And in just a moment, we'll hear from director Loriann Schmidt and actors from The Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, coming to Pentacle Theatre September 29th through October 21st. We'll be right back with more KMUZ Theatre Talk, so stick around.
Today, we're talking with Loriann Schmidt, director of A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, opening at the Pentacle Theatre September 29th. And she's brought some of the actors with her that are in the show, Lance Nuttman, Kamil and Nathalie Reid-Holbrook. Welcome to Theater Talk, you guys.
Thank you. Hi, and good to be on again.
Loriann, what attracted you to this particular play?
Oh, goodness. It is such a fantastically fun story. It is witty. It is clever. The music is very catchy, and it's just a delightful story, especially when audiences would just love nothing more than to sit back, relax, and enjoy some laughter.
So what was your concept going into this show?
Well, the concept is really straightforward since it is a period piece. It's set in Edwardian times, 1909 to be exact. And it is such a fun musical. It almost produces itself because the locations are easy to recreate, and the music, while very challenging and difficult, is very catchy. And the storyline is really so much fun that the actors and everyone involved just has a really great time every time we get together.
Could you give us a quick recap of the storyline, Loriann?
Well, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but Kamil plays the main character, Monty Navarro, who discovers that he is actually in line for an earldom, and he decides to ingratiate himself into the family, but discovers an easier route to climbing the ladder to the earldom. It's a very clever tale of love and murder.
Nathalie and Lance, where do you fit into the equation?
So Phoebe Dysquith is the character that I portray, and she is part of this illustrious Dysquith family that Monty has realized that he is a part of. And back then, cousins it wasn't a big deal that they got married. So Phoebe does play a love interest of Monty. She's never really in line for inheriting much herself, but she's a very strong character, considering women back then were not as outspoken or bold. She is a very poised and sophisticated lady, and she's super exciting to portray.
Lance, what kind of character or characters do you play?
I have the great pleasure of playing basically the entire Dysquith family. Aside from Phoebe and Monty, I play every other Dysquith family member that graces the stage. So I get to play, the total is 8 different characters. I get to play a priest, a dandy, a socialite, a very terrible actress.
That will be worth the ticket just to see that.
It's a blast. It is an absolute blast. In Little Shop of Horrors, I got to play Orin Scrivello. And if you know that play, that actor gets to play many, many different characters, and there's quick changes and on and off, and it's kind of the bit. This show is very much along that line where you just never know what's going to happen with this role. So it's very, very fun.
That sounds wonderful.
Kamil, your role is Monty Navarro. You're kind of the foil for all the roles that Lance is playing in this show.
Yeah, it has been such a wonderful experience to just get to bounce off of Lance's energy for what is basically the entire show. He never disappoints.
Tell us a little bit more about your character, Kamil.
Monty starts out as your everyday British inhabitant. He struggles in life monetarily. His mother recently passes, is grieving that. And the entire story it's his transformation. He's getting an upgrade, but in very mischievous ways.
If you read any of the play descriptions or reviews about this show, you know that all of the characters that Lance plays meet a hilarious but ignominious end. Are not necessarily the character Monty's fault, but nonetheless help him sort of rise to the occasion, if you will.
All except one. One of Lance's characters does live.
Ooh, this is so much fun. Loriann, what do you hope the audiences take away from this? Certainly they won't be murdering their family.
I certainly hope not, but since it is called a guide to love and murder, it is an interesting twist in the storytelling. The story begins with Monty recounting his rise to the earldom and how he got there. So one of the things audiences should come away from this with is really an evening of high hilarity and entertainment value. This is just a really enjoyable show. There's no deep-rooted meaning. It is just really a delightful, delightful story with a lot of funny aspects that are very enjoyable, and lots of memorable songs and characters and funny dialogue. It's just a really enjoyable evening. And I have to say, the cast in this show is quite extraordinary. Every single person in the show is extremely talented. Everything from the cast all the way through the crew. Karen McCarty is just out sewing herself with these costumes. All of the quick changes that Lance has to go through, all of the other costume changes. There are over 90 individual costumes for this show. And
wow.
I consider that quite a feat.
How many cast members?
13.
Wow.
That's a lucky number for a comic murder musical.
Very much so.
Lance, what's been your biggest challenge in playing the entire Dicewith family?
I would have to say, and I might be betraying my age a little bit here, but I remember when the casting call went out for it, and one of the smartest things they put on there was, this role requires stamina. And that right there, I think, is the biggest challenge. There is just a couple of times where I am literally out of breath, just going, "Oh boy, how am I going to get into this next character?" And, I step off stage and I get my clothes changed and boom, right back out as somebody completely different. And, I knew that going in, and that was one of the reasons why I really, really was hoping to land this role. But that's definitely a challenge, and also keeping track of who I am.
Well, that must bring you a lot of joy, though. To me, that's kind of like an actor's dream role, to be able to play a variety of characters, give them each a distinct personality, and also to sing while you're doing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you nailed it right on the head there, Ed. I mean, I'm kind of drawing on my years and years of theater nerddom, growing up as a Monty Python fan and watching Doctor Who as a kid, and all these different things I can pull from, and all these crazy accents and all these absurd characters that you can just go for it with, So it really is an actor's dream to just be able to be versatile and just play, just get up there and play all day. It's wonderful.
Do you ever look down and say, okay, I'm in this costume, I'm this character?
We're not quite there yet in the rehearsal process. Like Loriann said, Karen McCarty is sewing like a maniac. But right now I have my track in my back pocket on a spreadsheet, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I get off stage and go, okay, who am I now? Okay, got it. And just kind of make that mental shift. So
Wow.
One tip I'll give you, Lance, is check your shoes,
oh, okay.
because knowing which shoes you have on, whether you're in heels or not, will give you a clue as to which character you're playing. And just as a side note, folks, Lance has not shaved his beard to play these characters, so that's going to be another moment of hilarity or two.
Oh my.
As he makes his costume and character changes. Nathalie, I have a question for you. Your role as Phoebe requires quite a lot of skill in vocal performance.
She does have a very challenging set of music to kind of get through. I am very fortunate that I got the ability to attend the San Francisco Conservatory of Music and get my bachelor's of music there, which has prepared me for being able to take on what descriptions always go with very legit operatic sound.
Wow.
That was also in the casting call. And she has really been able to challenge me vocally in a lot of ways. I have, since school, we won't mention how many years ago I graduated, but since school has ended, I've focused more on more true Broadway musical theater type singing. And so to be able to come back to my roots, so to speak, and be able to jump into this operatic sound has been a challenge for me, but in such a rewarding way. To be able to tap into all those skills that I didn't realize I utilized every day, but just in a different way with singing. So it's been fun to kind of merge the opera and the musical theater together.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, she's a hoot.
And it sounds like a lot to hear that we will look forward to.
I have to say, like, everybody in the cast is so incredibly gifted. The way that, and it was so smartly casted by Loriann and Karen and Stacia, the music director, as how voices blend together and play off of one another. As someone who's also like music directed a few shows prior to my moving to Salem, that's such a hard thing to accomplish when you can find that blend among voices. And those ladies just like really hit the sweet spot with the casting.
Wow.
Kamil, what's been your biggest challenge in bringing Monty to the stage?
The way he's played, he addresses the audience very much with sarcasm and utilizes comedy. So I don't believe his character so much is what is difficult. I love playing comedic characters. It's one of my favorite things to do in shows. But I think I leave the stage twice for the entire show. And while that is in no way the same level of intensity that Lance has to go through with his multiple characters and 10-second quick changes, that is a level of endurance that I have yet to be tested with. I haven't experienced a role like this quite yet before.
What's your background?
This show has been my leap of faith into deep waters. I have previously only taken part in high school shows, and I auditioned for this show the second that Broadway Dreams was over, which was the only other theatrical event I had partaken in outside of school.
Well, that's a great program to really set your sights a little higher to bring more depth to your game. The Broadway Dreams Workshop, for those listeners who may not be familiar with it, is one that is held at Enlightened Theatrics every year, and it brings Broadway professionals into town for a basically week-long session of polishing everyone's skills to a higher level.
Kamil, you must have worked on your stamina, because Broadway Dreams is over in a week. You have to be on stage a long time.
Yes.
In character.
At the time, that show was the most difficult thing I had gone through, but I would say it definitely gave me the confidence and assurance to audition for a show like this, which was the day after we had finished with our closing night.
Yeah.
And I think too that one of the things that is another leap of faith is to, be able to cast someone in this role who doesn't have as much experience as a lot of the other cast members. But I think the other cast members would agree that Kamil is definitely rising to the role.
Well, I can hardly wait to see it.
I'm so excited because it's my first show in Salem and with Pentacle, and it's been such an embracing and welcoming experience. I can't wait to share that with audiences with this show.
Well, folks, if you want to have a really fun evening of musical theater and maybe learn some skills on how to handle conflicts at Thanksgiving, go and see A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. It plays September 29th through October 21st at the Pentacle Theatre in Salem. Book and lyrics by Robert Friedman and music and lyrics by Stephen Lutvak. It's directed by Loriann Schmidt, and it features a story that depends on a high body count, but also high comedy and great music. Thank you so very much, Loriann Schmidt, the director of the show, and Nathalie Reid, Kamil and Lance Nuttman for joining us here on Theater Talk.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ann and Ed.
It's time to wind up today's KMUZ Theater Talk program. Thank you for joining us. Next week at 9 a.m., you can tune in to Talking About Art with Joel Zack. Theater Talk is a proud member of the Salem Theater Network.
KMUZ Theater Talk airs at 9 a.m. the first and third Friday of the month at 100.7 and 88.5 FM, and on your favorite radio app or on demand at kmuz.org. You can also listen to our KMUZ Theater Talk podcast anytime on your PC, mobile device, smart speaker, or in your car, wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our shows.
Ed and I will return October 6th with a brand new KMUZ Theater Talk program. Meanwhile, check out our Theater Talk Facebook page for news and updates about live theater in the Mid-Willamette Valley.
And if you haven't yet joined to support KMUZ Theater Talk and the rest of KMUZ's great community radio programs, go to kmuz.org right now and hit that contribute button at the top of the page. And thanks. Until next time, we'll see you in the front row.